savings to help them weather a government shutdown. And while each of these categories receive back pay once the government's reopened, they cannot receive a paycheck during the shutdown. This is extraordinarily unfair to these government employees who, through no fault of their own, are being denied the pay that they have earned. Now, this will have a particularly serious impact on our military and Department of Homeland Security personnel, many of whom have been designated as accepted, or we used to say some were essential employees, but they have to stay on the job, in other words, but they don't get paid either. Texas has 15 active duty military installations where personnel are required to continue reporting for duty throughout the shutdown. These active duty personnel will not be paid again until a final funding deal is reached. And right now, we don't know how long this is going to go on. I know most of us come to the floor and express our gratitude, our profound gratitude to our men and women in uniform and their families that serve our country and keep us safe. But this strikes me as a very bad way to say thank you to them by saying, yes, you have to continue to work, but no, you're not going to be paid. So Senate Democrats apparently have made that calculation. This is how they thank them: by cutting off their pay, denying them their livelihood, and holding them hostage over petty partisan demands. In addition to active duty military personnel, I mentioned Customs and Border Protection. All of them are expected to continue reporting for duty day in and day out during the government shutdown. Our Border Patrol agents, who bore the brunt of Biden's open border policies, working hundreds of hours in some of the harshest of conditions, and have processed millions of illegal aliens flooding into the United States courtesy of President Biden. Now we're telling them, or at least Senate Democrats are telling them, you're not going to get paid. This is how they have chosen to reward these patriotic men and women who keep our borders secure, by shutting down the government and denying them their paycheck. And why do Senate Democrats think this is so important? Well, they've told us what their demands are, what the ransom that they are demanding. They want us to wipe out a $50 billion rural hospital stabilization fund that was part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Many of us represent rural states that have large rural areas, and access to health care is a big problem. And we had tried to address that problem by providing a significant fund, this Rural Hospital Stabilization Fund, to help address those concerns. But Democrats want to take that away. We also said in the One Big Beautiful Bill, no money can go to provide health care for illegal aliens. Access to free government services is one of the magnets that draw people to come to our country in the first place. This is one of the so-called pull factors that the Border Patrol talks about. And we said no more free health care for illegal aliens, which is a magnet for people to enter the country the wrong way, not the right way. And Democrats want to restore that free health care to illegal aliens as part of their demands for reopening the government. Madam President, this is simply unconscionable, but it is also profoundly dumb. Shut down the government solves nothing. We've been through that. We've seen this movie before. And what happens when you reopen the government, the same problem, the same issues that caused you to shut down the government are there staring you in the face. So these shutdowns solve nothing. I don't know how Senate Democrats can continue voting against a clean government funding bill like they themselves have previously supported on a routine basis, knowing that the men and women who keep them and us safe are working for free, without a paycheck, for no other reason than that Senate Democrats refuse to give up on their partisan pipe dreams. FEMA employees, Federal Emergency Management Agency, who are first responders in a case of natural disaster, are also expected to continue to be working without paid during hurricane season, no less. In addition to law enforcement and emergency personnel, a government shutdown affects all Americans one way or the other. It affects travel, it affects access to public lands. TSA workers and air traffic controllers have to keep working, and these are the people that make sure our airlines operate safely and on time. But they have to work without pay. The hiring and training of any new air traffic controllers, which we know is a real problem and an important issue, all that will stop during the time the federal government shut down. No new hiring of new personnel to help make our air traffic safe. All of this because Senate Democrats can't work in a bipartisan manner to keep government open even for a few weeks. The government shutdown also impacts our national parks and federal lands. Texas boasts 3.2 million acres of federally operated public lands, including Big Bend National Park, Guadalupe Mountains National Park, and Padre Island National Seashore. National parks face a partial shutdown, meaning that some areas, such as open-air sites, will remain open to the public, but buildings that require staffing, like museums, will have to close. Madam President, my constituents, roughly 32 million Americans, like all Americans, have to pay the price because of this completely unnecessary government shutdown and the outrageous demands Democrats are making to reopen. All of this lies squarely at their feet. You know, I was reflecting over the weekend, after the last time we voted to reopen the government and Democrats voted no, how this must reflect on the United States in the eyes of the world. You know, I think most countries, most people around the world look at the United States as sort of that city on the hill, the place where they would like to live or at least visit, because we have the largest, most successfully functioning democracy in the world, with high standards of living, the opportunity for people to work hard, provide for their family, start a business, achieve their dreams. It is profoundly embarrassing, I think it should be embarrassing, to all members of Congress that we simply cannot get our act together enough to fund the government for the next few weeks while these negotiations over long-term appropriations bills are occurring. This kind of dysfunction is completely unworthy of what has been known, what has used to be known as the world's greatest deliberative body. The unfortunate reality is it doesn't have to be this way. Many of our Democratic friends have from time to time talked about various things being a threat to democracy. Well, being unable to pass a bill to fund the government to keep the lights on and keep government employees paid, that strikes me as a threat to our democracy. Senate Democrats have long preached the virtues of bipartisanship, especially when it comes to avoiding government shutdowns. And in the past, they've wagged their finger. We've seen it all on social media and on cable TV. They've said shutdowns are idiocy. That's what the Democratic leader said on TV years ago when the shoe was on the other foot. He said it's idiocy. Well, I agree with him. It was idiocy then, and it's idiocy now. The American people may not understand the ins and outs of what goes on here, but what they can smell from a mile away is hypocrisy. And that's all this is, sheer hypocrisy. All our colleagues need to do when we vote here shortly is to vote for a clean, continuing resolution. And all of this can be reversed. And we can get back to the working together to try to solve some of the issues that I know they care about as well. We all care about access to health care. And that's one of the items that we have to address certainly before the end of the year with the expiring of certain provisions, certain subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. And we're happy to have that conversation. And we will have that conversation, but not while the government shut down. So the good news is, well, let me back up and say the bad news is government shut down. The good news is that can end today, this afternoon. Democrats have an opportunity to vote with Republicans to pass a clean, continuing resolution, as they have at many times in the past. So I hope we can all join arms and say, let's put an end to this nonsense and pass this legislation on what will now be the fifth opportunity. The American people are counting on us, and we shouldn't let them down. Madam President, I yield the floor.
Madam President.
The senator from New Jersey.
Madam President, I asked people back home in New Jersey how they felt about this moment in our country. And what I heard falls into this category of saying that they said that they felt like things are spinning out of control. That every day feels like a new crisis. Every day the anxiety grows deeper. Every day it seems like we move further from a solution, and in order to find a solution to this moment, we need to understand the problem. The problem that we face and that I want to talk about with you today is that we have a government that has been hijacked at the highest levels by people who act like mob bosses. Now I get it. I'm from Jersey. We know a thing or two about mob bosses. But I want to be clear. This isn't pulling off a Lufthansa heist or having members of your crew get lost in the Pine Barrens. This is about a Trump administration that is using the same tactics we've seen time and time again in movies and in real life. Extortion, corruption, intimidation, and violence. All of these things that have become hallmarks of the Trump presidency. And I bring them up today, 6 days into a government shutdown, because this is what the Trump administration is focused on. The Trump administration is not focused on lowering your costs. If they were, they'd be here at the Capitol today working to find a way to lower healthcare costs, as we're about to see them spike for millions of Americans, potentially kicking large numbers off their coverage who can't afford it. The Trump administration is not focused on creating jobs or creating economic opportunities. If they were, they'd be here in both the Senate and the House today, working to make sure that we're investing in the kinds of things only government can provide. Things that make us more competitive, more innovative, more prosperous. The Trump administration is certainly not focused on keeping you and your family safer. If they were, they'd be here at the Capitol today, in both chambers, working to get our troops paid or to address the real challenges at home and abroad that threaten our security. Instead, this administration and leaders here in this Capitol have shut down this government so they can focus on the things that they want. to use government to further corruption so that they can funnel money to their billionaire donors, to use government as a tool to extort the American people to bend to their will, to weaponize government to intimidate Americans through violence who dare oppose their actions by even just speaking out. Corruption, extortion, and intimidation through violence. This is how the Trump administration wants to use your government against you. Now, like every great mob movie, it's not just about the boss who plays a critical role. For every Don Corleone, there's a Tom Hagen and a Luca Brasi. Donald Trump plays the role of the mob boss, but it's his henchmen who are really running the show. Russell Vought and Stephen Miller, they're not public servants. Public servants, they work to serve the public. They work towards a public good. Russ Vought and Stephen Miller are straight out of Scorsese. These two men are running an operation on corruption, extortion, and intimidation that would make Al Capone jealous. Let's start with Russ Vought. Russ Vaught's entire existence, his reason for being, is to cut every program the American people can possibly rely on so that the billionaires who fund his work can get another tax cut. Money goes to him, money goes back to them, none of it goes to you. Pure corruption. But it's not enough for Russ Vought to just funnel billions to his backers. He has to take from you just to remind you of his power, just to bring you to heel. That's why last week he announced that he was freezing $18 billion for critical infrastructure projects in New York and New Jersey. One of them is the Hudson Tunnel Project, which is critical to our region's economy. In fact, when I asked Secretary Duffy about this at his confirmation hearing, he said it was a project of national importance, critical for our nation, not just our region. It's essential to our pursuit to bring infrastructure into the 21st century, and it supports tens of thousands of jobs. But Russell Vought decided to freeze that money out of nothing but political retribution. He decided to freeze this money because he thinks he can punish the people of New Jersey for demanding the government actually work for them, for demanding that we actually work to lower costs. It doesn't just stop at New Jersey. He froze billions in dollars for transit projects in Chicago and more than $8 billion in Department of Energy projects in states across the country just because those states voted for Democrats in the last election. Didn't try to stop those exact types of projects in states that voted for Donald Trump in the last election. Russell Vought acts like a mob boss because he thinks he can use his levers of government to funnel money to his friends and take away your services when you've gotten out of line. Last week, I went to New Jersey for a day and heard from my constituents about how they're seeing this shutdown. And one woman said something that really stuck out to me. Because I asked her, if you had a chance to be able to say one thing to Donald Trump and these Republican negotiators, what would it be? And this was an independent voter. She said, I would want to tell them that it's our money. It's the American people's money, not Trump's personal bank account. She's absolutely right. This isn't Russell Vaught's money to take away whenever he pleases. We've seen him do that through something called rescissions, something that completely ignores the framework our founding fathers put in place nearly 250 years ago. That Congress, on the behalf of you, the people, decide how your money is spent. And when that decision is made on behalf of you, your will, your money can't be overturned and taken away simply because a single bureaucratic mob boss decides to exercise his power. It's not just taking money away. We need to remember that this isn't Russ Vaught's money to use as a tool to extort his imagined enemies into following his orders. We need to remember that this is your money, it's your government, and it should work for you. But right now, the Trump administration isn't working for you. It's working to grow and consolidate its own power. And that brings us to our second mob boss, Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller thinks he's the enforcer. He thinks it's his job to defeat Donald Trump's enemies. And again, like Russell Vought, he doesn't seem to see himself as a public servant. He's not even here to make your family safer or to protect your country. Let's look at how Stephen Miller operates as a mob boss. Stephen Miller and this administration have taken the issue of our broken immigration system, and instead of working to actually fix it, they've used it as an excuse to rapidly militarize parts of our government and deploy them against our own people in our own cities, in our own towns. It starts with going after criminals, people who should actually be sought after and detained, but that's not where it stops. We have seen thousands of American service members sent into American cities. We have as many National Guard, we have as many Americans in uniform here in Washington, D.C. than we do in Iraq. We have seen American weapons of war, including Black Hawk helicopters, used against Americans in places like Chicago. And we have seen Miller and other members of this administration effectively call anyone who simply disagrees with them terrorists, including the Democratic Party, while calling for the use of state power to dismantle them. Now, I want to reflect on that phrase for a moment, state power. Stephen Miller isn't talking about using the power of our government to make your lives better or work for you. He's not talking about using it to make your neighborhoods safer. He's talking about using it against you if you get out of line. He's talking about using it against anyone who disagrees with this administration, for anyone who stands in their way. We know that because Donald Trump has basically told us so. He told a room of all of his nation's top military officials, seemingly convened only to show he had the power to do so, that they should prepare for a, quote, war from within. He told the leaders of the most powerful military in the history of the world to prepare to battle the, quote, enemy from within. That means Americans at home. And again, we know that because Donald Trump has said it. In the same convening, he said he wants to use American cities as training grounds for the military. American cities, places where we live, where we go to work, where we bring our schools our kids to school. That is where Donald Trump wants to exercise power over you. We have the finest military in the world. The purpose of that military is to defend our Constitution, to defend the American people, to deter our enemies and be prepared to fight them if necessary. The American people are not that enemy, and deploying our military in America's streets weakens our readiness to defend against real threats. Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and this administration will keep finding new excuses to seize power and threaten to use it against you. In the words of a federal judge, one that Trump appointed, ours, quote, is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law. And the actions of the Trump administration, quote, risk blurring the lines between civil and military federal power to the detriment of this nation. We are seeing this administration launch military strikes against individuals from Venezuela with no legal authorization or justification. We're seeing this administration, Mr. Miller specifically, call legal decisions that he doesn't like, quote, an organized terrorist attack. We're seeing this administration use intimidation and violence as tools not to make us safer, as if that was ever acceptable, but to make us submit. At the end of the day, that is this administration's aim, submission. Like every mob boss, they want you to kiss the ring. They want your loyalty, but not just that, they want your fealty. And the things they don't understand is that Americans don't bend the knee. We don't kiss the ring. We don't pledge loyalty to a boss. This is the people's government. It's not a tool for corruption. It's not a tool for extortion. It's not a tool for intimidation and violence. It is a tool for growing opportunity and prosperity. It is a tool for providing security and freedom. And it's a tool for everyone, not just the bosses. So yes, we need to work to reopen our government. And in doing so, we need to make sure that people don't drown under a wave of rising healthcare costs. But we can't lose sight that this isn't the only fight we've got in front of us. President Trump has handed power to Russ Vought and Stephen Miller, and they've used that power to take away your opportunities, your security, and your freedoms. When we reopen the government, we need to fight to make sure it's working for you, the American people. You deserve better than to live under the thumb of mob bosses. We're going to fight every day to make sure that you can. Thank you, and I'll yield back.
Madam President.
Senator from Nebraska.
Thank you, Madam President. For all ag producers, the word tariff makes us nervous. But earlier this year, I took a step back to look at the bigger economic picture, and I became one of the first members of Congress to support the administration's effort to level the playing field on trade. I've said many times that the administration deserves time to secure strong trade deals that benefit Americans. However, the reality is this: farmers are targeted by other countries like China. I've seen it firsthand back home in Nebraska. Producers of corn, soybeans, and other top commodities, they are under crushing pressure. Rising input costs and uncertainty have driven farm finances to levels reminiscent of the 1980s crisis, which bankrupted thousands, and it hollowed out our rural communities. Since 2020, seed costs have jumped 18%. Fuel and oil are up 32%. Fertilizer has spiked 37%, and interest expenses have surged an alarming 73%. Our soybean producers are projected to lose about $100 an acre this year. On top of that, storage costs for soybeans and corn have risen steeply. For everybody, this is crippling, and it's happening during one of the largest harvests in memory. Madam President, time is running out, and we need to turn this around. We need a strong and positive set of actions. Ensuring our farmers can weather tough economic times must be a national priority. It's clear that farm aid is needed at this time. Congress has taken some steps towards this goal. We passed $10 billion in farm aid last December, and we included a major boost for producers in July's reconciliation law. However, that money is not going to reach any farmers until next fall, and producers need to have relief right now. But here's the challenge. We also need lasting, long-term solutions that help provide stability and real opportunity for ag producers. That's why one of the fastest ways we can deliver results is by unlocking year-round access to E15, a clean, American-made biofuel. Permanent nationwide access would increase corn demand by 2.5 billion bushels a year. It would lower gas prices for families, and it would drive new revenue into rural communities. President Trump's day one order to promote E15 through his National Energy Emergency Declaration, that was a strong start. But temporary fixes, they don't cut it. That's why I reintroduced my nationwide Consumer and Fuel Retailer Choice Act earlier this year. When I first introduced this bill nearly a decade ago, it felt like an uphill climb. Well, today, momentum is finally on our side. We have strong bipartisan support. We have new industry partners, including members of the oil and refining sector, who are at the table. And this is a key piece Act earlier this year. When I first introduced this bill nearly a decade ago, it felt like an uphill climb. Well, today, momentum is finally on our side. We have strong bipartisan support. We have new industry partners, including members of the oil and refining sector, who are at the table. And this is a key piece of Republicans' plan to lower energy costs, to strengthen American production, and to give consumers more choices at the pump. Trade, well, that's the other half of the equation. Former President Biden's lack of a clear trade agenda left America with a $49 billion trade deficit, undercutting farmers in Nebraska and all across this country. President Trump, you can help reverse that deficit by holding China accountable and ensuring American-grown soybeans have access to global markets, a lifeline for farmers facing losses this harvest season. President Trump has already made progress on this trade front. Take beef. Australia has sold nearly $29 billion worth of beef to U.S. consumers, while American ranchers have been locked out of their market. Do you know how much beef, American beef, Australia bought? Zero. Now we need the same kind of breakthrough by opening up a market for soybeans and corn and every other American crop. At the end of the day, farmers and ranchers want programs that work, and we want markets to sell our products. Madam President, simply put, we just want a fair shot. By securing strong trade deals and building new markets through year-round E15, we can revitalize the farm economy. We can bolster United States energy security, and we can ensure that America's producers can keep feeding and fueling this nation for generations to come. Thank you, Madam President. Yield the floor. Madam President.
The senator from Nebraska.
Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that it be in order for the two leaders to enter motions to reconsider without being on the prevailing side with respect to the cloture votes on the motion to proceed to S 2882 and HR 5371. Further, that mandatory quorum calls with respect to S 2882, HR 5371, and the en blanc nominations provided for under the provisions of S-Res 412 be waived.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor.
support the motion to invoke cloture.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the motion to proceed to calendar number 167S2882, a bill making continuing appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026, and for other purposes, signed by 17 senators.
By unanimous consent, the mandatory quorum call has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that the debate on the motion to proceed to S2882, a bill making continuing appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026, and for other purposes, shall be brought to a close? The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt.
No.
Mr. Budd. Ms. Cantwell. Mrs. Capito. Mr. Cassidy. Ms. Collins. Mr. Coons. Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Betterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Moreno, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Cantwell, Kane, Kim, King, Lujan, Merkley, Padilla, Peters, Reed, Wyden. Senators voting in the negative: Banks, Barrasso, Britt, Capito, Ernst, Fisher, Husted, Lummis, Marshall, McCormick, Moreno, Paul, Wicker. Ms. Collins. Ms. Collins, no. Ms. Hassan, aye. Mr. Scott of Florida, no. Mr. Crapo, no. Mr. Kelly, aye. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, no. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, aye. Mr. Kramer, no. Mr. Justice, no. Mr. Sheehy, no. Mr. Rounds, no. Mr. Risch, no. Ms. Duckworth, aye. Mrs. Hyde Smith, no. Mr. Van Hollen, aye. Mr. Cassidy, no. Mr. Grassley, no. Mr. Tuberville, no. Mr. Cornyn, No. Mrs. Shaheen, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, no. Ms. Blunt Rochester, aye. Mr. Cotton, no. Mr. Blumenthal, aye. Mr. Johnson, no. Mrs. Moody, no. Mr. Ossoff, aye. Mr. Moran, no. Mr. Langford, no. Mr. Daines, no. Mr. Hickenlooper, aye. Mr. Mullen, no. Ms. Hirono, aye. Mr. Thune, no. Mr. Ricketts, no. Mr. Fetterman, aye. Mr. Graham, no. Mr. Haggerty, no. Mr. Budd, no. Mr. Coons, aye. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye. Mr. Cruz, no.
How close are we?
Mr. Markey, aye. Mr. Booker, aye. Mr. Bozeman, no. Mr. Murphy, aye. Mr. Bennett, aye.
I'm bummed they didn't go when Texas won there. That would have been the fun time.
Mr. Schmidt, no. Mr. Schatz,
I mean, I've been,
aye.
so I want to come.
Mr. Sanders, aye. Mrs. Murray, aye. Ms. Baldwin, aye. Ms. Warren, aye. Mr. Warner, aye. Mr. Shipp, aye. Mr. Lee, no. Mr. Welch, aye. Ms. Markowski, no. Ms. Klobuchar, aye. Mr. Young. Mr. Young, no. Mr. Whitehouse, aye. Mr. Durbin, aye. Mrs. Gillibrand, aye.
You want to be on board too.
Mr. Hawley, no. Mr. Hoven, no.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, no. Ms. Alsobrooks, aye. Mr. McConnell, no. Mr. Gallego. Mr. Gallego, aye. Mr. Warnock, aye. Mr. Schumer, aye. Ms. Slotkin, aye. All right.
On this vote, the yeas are 45, the nays are 50. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative, the motion is not agreed to. The clerk will report the motion to a vote cloture.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the motion to proceed to calendar number 168, H.R. 5371, an act making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes, signed by 17 senators.
By unanimous consent, the mandatory quorum call has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that debate on the motion to proceed to H.R. 5371, an act making continuing appropriations and extensions for the fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes shall be brought to a close? The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt-Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn. Ms. Cortez Masto. Mr. Cotton. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Curtis. Mr. Daines. Ms. Duckworth. Mr. Durbin. Ms. Ernst. Mr. Fetterman. Mrs. Fisher. Mr. Gallego. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Grimm. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Haggerty. Ms. Hassan. Mr. Hawley. Mr. Heinrich. Mr. Hickenlooper. Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Justice. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kim. Mr. King. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Britt, Budd, Cornyn, Cotton, Cruz, Daines, Fisher, Graham, Hawley, Husted, Hyde-Smith, Langford, McConnell, Mullen, Ricketts, Sullivan, Tuberville, Wicker, and Young. Senators voting in the negative: Baldwin, Blumenthal, Blunt-Rochester, Cantwell, Coons, Duckworth, Durbin, Gallego, Hassan, Hickenlooper, Kane, Kelly, Lujan, Merkley, Murphy, Murray, Paul, Reed, Sanders, Schiff, Slotkin, Warner, Warren, Welch, Whitehouse, and Wyden. Mr. Ossoff, no. Mr. Peters, no. Mr. Warnock, no. Mr. Fetterman, aye. Ms. Klobuchar, no. Ms. Smith, no. Mr. Schatz, no. Ms. Collins, aye. Mr. Padilla, no. Ms. Hirono, no. Mr. Rounds, aye. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Mr. Kim, no. Mr. Cassidy, aye. Mr. Risch, aye. Mr. Grassley, aye. Mrs. Gillibrand, no. Ms. Ernst, aye. Mr. Hoven, aye. Mr. Barrasso, aye. Mr. Thune, aye. Mr. Kramer, aye. Mrs. Capito, aye. Mr. Markey, no. Mr. Moran, aye. Ms. Alsobrooks, no. Mr. Banks, aye. Mr. Haggerty, aye. Mr. Marino, aye. Mr. Schmidt, aye. Mr. Johnson, aye. Mr. McCormick, aye. Mr. Marshall, aye. Ms. Lummis, aye. Mr. Crapo, aye. Mr. Bozeman, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, aye. Mr. Scott of Florida, aye. Mrs. Moody, aye. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, aye. Mr. Van Hollen, no. Mr. Justice, aye. Mr. Lee, aye. Mr. King, aye. Mrs. Shaheen, no. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye. Mr. Bennett, no. Mr. Schumer, no. Mr. Sheehy, aye.
On this vote, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 42. 3/5 of the Senate duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to.
Mr. President, I enter a motion to reconsider.
The motion is entered.
Mr. President,
Democratic leader.
I enter a motion to reconsider the cloture vote on the motion to proceed to calendar S 2882, calendar 167.
The motion is entered. The clerk will report the motion to invoke cloture.
Cloture motion, we, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate and the provisions of SRS 412 from the 119th Congress, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on executive calendar numbers 62, 86, off, 92, 126.
Mr. President, I ask consent to waive the reading of the numbers.
Without objection.
Signed by 17 senators.
With consent, the mandatory quorum call has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that debate on the unblocked nominations provided for under the provisions of SRES 412 shall be brought to a close? The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Ms. Baldwin, okay. Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso. Thank you. Mr. Bennett. Great Bill Cassidy. Yes, sir. Baseball's out. Collins. Mr. Senator King. Thank you. Ossoff, Kelly, Haggerty, gotcha. Warnock, Black. I got you.
I was advocating.
Thank you. Thank you. Who? Who? Thank you. I did get you. Thank you. Got you both. Got you both. Got you both. I got you. Yep. Thank you. I got you. Yeah, you're voting for it. Thank you. Mr. Houston. Okay. You're a no. You're a no. Thank you. I did. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Blumenthal.